My son called the police and declared me a thief. That's how my story begins, my dear child. Not with love, not with kindness, but with betrayal. You sit here at my feet, your eyes wide and full of questions. I see your little fingers curled into the fabric of my old shawl. You don't understand yet, but one day you will. So I will tell you everything, even the parts that hurt. It was a quiet evening when it happened. The house smelled of bread baking, though none of it was for me. I had spent the whole day cleaning, my back aching, my knees stiff. I folded clothes, scrubbed dishes, swept the floors. Still, not once did my son's wife thank me. Not once did my son ask if I had eaten. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping water from a cracked cup, when I heard her whispering in his ear. Her voice was sharp but low, like the hiss of a snake. She takes things. Little things. Money from your wallet. Food from the pantry. You think she's harmless, but she's not. She steals. I froze. The cup trembled in my hands. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, but the words caught in my throat. And then came the sound that shattered me. My son's voice. Cold. Certain. If that's true, we'll call the police. She has to learn. He knew. He knew I had never stolen a thing in my life. I gave him everything I ever owned. When he was a boy, I pawned my wedding ring just to buy him shoes for school. I stitched clothes until my eyes blurred, sold vegetables in the market, walked miles under the sun, just so he would never go without. And now, the same boy who once clung to my skirt, who once whispered, "Mama, don't leave me," was ready to cast me out as a criminal. The knock came quickly. Firm, sharp, merciless. Two officers stood at the door, their uniforms neat, their expressions unreadable. "Ma'am, we've had a report of theft," one of them said. His eyes flicked toward me, sitting small and hunched at the table. My heart pounded. "A thief," I whispered. My voice was so soft it barely reached the room. My daughter-in-law folded her arms, her chin lifted with triumph. "Yes," she said. "She steals from us. From her own family. We can't live like this anymore." I turned to my son, my boy, my blood. His face was blank. He wouldn't even look at me. The officers stepped closer. One asked gently, "Ma'am, is this true? Did you take anything from this house without permission?" I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. "No. Never. I would rather starve than steal from my own child." But my words hung in the air, thin and weak. Lies travel fast, my dear, while the truth limps behind. The younger officer glanced around the room. On the counter sat a loaf of bread, warm from the oven. A slice was missing. The daughter-in-law pounced. "There," she snapped. "She ate it before dinner. She always does. She hides food like a thief." The room spun. A slice of bread. That was the crime they laid on my shoulders. My stomach twisted, not from hunger, but from shame. The older officer sighed. "It's a family matter," he said finally. "But if we receive another complaint, we'll have no choice but to take action." They left, their boots echoing against the wooden floor. The door closed behind them, and silence filled the house. Then came the laughter. Soft at first, then sharp. My daughter-in-law's laughter. "See," she said, her eyes gleaming. "Now she knows. Now she'll behave." My son said nothing. Nothing at all. I sat there, my hands shaking in my lap, my heart breaking into pieces so small I thought I would never gather them again. Do you see, my little one, why I tell you this? Life can be cruel. The people you give everything to can turn against you. They can twist your sacrifices into sins. They can take the bread from your hands and still call you a thief. But listen carefully, even in the deepest pain, even in the coldest betrayal, there is a lesson. You must know your worth. You must never let lies define you. That night, I lay on my thin mattress in the corner, staring at the ceiling. My chest ached, my eyes burned, but no tears came. I had none left to give. And yet, in the quiet of the dark, a strange thought came to me. If they could cast me out, if they could paint me as a thief, then perhaps it was time to stop begging for their love. Perhaps it was time to find my own way. I closed my eyes, and though my body was weak, a spark of strength flickered in my soul. Because sometimes, my child, being broken is not the end. Sometimes it is the beginning. After the officers left, the house was too quiet. Quiet, but not peaceful. The kind of silence that presses down on you until you can hardly breathe. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands still trembling. My daughter-in-law's words, her laughter, echoed in my ears. A thief. She had called me a thief. Your little hand tightens on mine as I tell you this, and I can see the tears gathering in your eyes. Don't cry, my darling. Pain is a river I have already crossed. You only need to listen. That night, I lay on my thin mattress in the corner of the storage room. The air smelled of mildew and old wood. My back ached from the hard floor, but it wasn't the pain in my bones that kept me awake. It was the weight in my chest. I could hear them in the other room. My son and his wife, their voices sharp. She'll embarrass us, she hissed. Imagine if the neighbors talk. Imagine if people think we are hiding a criminal in our house. She's my mother, he answered, his voice tired, heavy. What do you want me to do? Send her away, she snapped. Before she ruins everything. The words cut deeper than any knife. Send me away. After all the years I carried him, fed him, worked my fingers to the bone for him, she wanted me thrown out like trash. I closed my eyes, remembering the times I had carried him on my back when he was too tired to walk. The nights I had stayed up with a wet cloth on his fevered forehead. The mornings I skipped breakfast so he could eat. I remembered the little boy who used to clutch my hand so tightly, afraid I might disappear. And now? He was ready to let me go. The days that followed were worse than any winter. My daughter-in-law stopped speaking to me altogether, except when she needed someone to scrub or sweep. She pushed my plate aside at dinner, always serving me last, always leaving the smallest portion. My son avoided my eyes. His silence was worse than her cruelty. Neighbors who once greeted me turned their faces away. Rumors spread fast in small towns. Whispers followed me when I walked to the market. That's her, I heard one woman mutter. The old one who steals from her own son. Shame burned my cheeks. I kept my head down, clutching the empty basket in my hands. One afternoon, as I bent to sweep the front steps, a neighbor's little girl passed by. She stopped, tugged on her mother's sleeve, and pointed at me. Mama, that's the thief lady, isn't it? Her mother hushed her quickly, pulling her away, but not before our eyes met. Hers held pity. Pity can be heavier than hatred. That night, I could not sleep. The walls seemed to close in, the air too heavy to breathe. My stomach ached from hunger, but I told myself I was used to hunger. What I was not used to was being called something I was not. And then, just when the night felt endless, there came a knock at the door. Not the police this time. A softer knock. Hesitant, almost shy. My daughter-in-law muttered, "Who could it be this late?" She pulled her shawl around her shoulders and went to open the door. I leaned forward, straining to hear. It was Mrs. Parker, the widow who lived 2 houses down. Her voice carried easily through the thin walls. "Evening. Sorry to disturb you. I thought I'd stop by. I made extra soup tonight." "Oh, you didn't have to do that," my daughter-in-law said quickly, her voice too sweet. But Mrs. Parker didn't hand her the pot. Instead, her voice softened. "Actually, I was hoping your mother-in-law could use it. I saw her at the market today." She looked thin. The silence that followed was sharp as glass. My daughter-in-law cleared her throat. "She's fine. She doesn't need anything. But thank you." "I'd still like her to have it," Mrs. Parker pressed. "If you don't mind." I heard the sound of footsteps, and then the pot was set on the table in front of me. Mrs. Parker's face peeked into the room, her eyes meeting mine. Kind eyes, full of quiet understanding. "Eat while it's warm," she said gently. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "Thank you." My voice cracked on the words. She gave me a small nod before leaving. That night, for the first time in many days, I tasted food that filled more than just my stomach. It filled a hollow space in my heart. Not because of the soup itself, but because it reminded me that not everyone believed the lies. Someone still saw me as human. But kindness can be dangerous when it shines into dark places. The very next morning, my daughter-in-law's anger exploded. She stormed into the storage room, her eyes blazing. "Don't think people will keep helping you," she hissed. "You're nothing but a burden. If you try to make me look bad again, you'll regret it." I sat in silence, clutching the empty soup bowl in my lap. Her words were fire, but my silence was stone. And yet, inside, a thought had begun to grow. If others could see the truth, if even one neighbor could notice my suffering, then perhaps I was not as powerless as she believed. The seed of strength had been planted. And seeds, my child, even in the darkest soil, will find a way to grow. My sweet child, when people try to bury you in lies, sometimes the hardest thing is to keep breathing. But I kept breathing. Day after day, I waited. I worked. I prayed. And quietly, inside, I gathered strength. A week after Mrs. Parker brought me that soup, the storm broke. It began with something small. My daughter-in-law misplaced her gold bracelet. A thick, shiny thing she wore only on Sundays to church. She searched the bedroom, the kitchen, even the laundry. And when she couldn't find it, her eyes found me. "There she is," she spat, pointing her finger like a knife. "It's her. She stole it." My heart dropped. Not again. Not another lie. My son looked at me, his face pale. "Mom, please. Tell me the truth." I rose slowly from the chair. My legs trembled, but my voice did not. "I have never stolen anything in my life. Not from you. Not from anyone." But she didn't stop. She picked up the phone, her fingers moving fast. "I'll call the police right now. Let them search her. Let them see what kind of woman she really is." The room spun. I thought I would faint. But before she could finish dialing, a voice cut through the air. It was Mrs. Parker again. She had stepped into the open doorway, her arms folded, her face stern. You might want to check the laundry basket before calling anyone, she said. My daughter-in-law froze. I saw you take it off yesterday while hanging the clothes, Mrs. Parker continued. It slipped into the basket. I didn't want to embarrass you, but I won't stand by and watch you destroy this woman anymore. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. My daughter-in-law's face burned red. She pushed past Mrs. Parker and rushed to the laundry basket in the corner. And there it was, the bracelet, tangled in a bedsheet. For the first time in many years, I saw shame cross her face. But it didn't last long. Shame turned to anger. She opened her mouth to lash out, but my son raised his hand. Enough, he said quietly. His voice shook, but it was stronger than I'd heard in years. He turned toward me. Mom, why didn't you say anything before? Why did you let me believe? His voice broke. Tears blurred my vision. Because you were my son, I whispered. And I thought love was enough to protect me. His face crumpled then, like a boy again, not a grown man. He sunk into a chair and buried his face in his hands. For once, his wife had no words. Mrs. Parker stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. The whole neighborhood sees what's happening, she said gently. You don't have to suffer in silence anymore. Her words were like sunlight breaking through clouds. That evening, my son came to me alone. His eyes were swollen, his voice raw. Mom, I failed you. I let her words blind me. I let you live in pain while I stood by. Can you ever forgive me? Forgive. Such a small word, yet so heavy. I looked at him, my son, my blood, the child I once carried on my back, and though my heart ached with scars, I nodded. I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It only gives us a chance to walk forward. He wept then, his tears soaking my hands. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the bond between us breathe again, fragile but alive. As for his wife, she avoided me after that night. Her eyes no longer carried triumph, only fear. She knew the truth had spilled out, and truth, once spoken, cannot be buried again. Not long after, my son moved me out of that storage room. He fixed up the small front room with a window that looked onto the street. He promised things would change. And though trust is a slow-growing seed, I chose to give it water. But, my darling, listen closely. This story is not about revenge, nor even about justice. It is about survival. It is about keeping your dignity when the world tries to strip it away. I tell you this now, not to make you sad, but to give you strength. One day you will face your own trials. You will meet people who speak lies about you, who try to dim your light. And when that day comes, remember your grandmother. Remember that even in the darkest rooms, hope waits like a candle. The fire in me did not die, even when I was locked away, even when I was called a thief. It flickered, it bent, but it never went out. And now, as you sit here beside me, your hand in mine, I see that same fire in your eyes. I smile through my tears. Promise me something, I whisper. You nod eagerly. What, Grandma? Promise me you will never let anyone tell you what you are worth. Promise me you will stand tall, even when the world tries to push you down. Your little fingers curl tighter around mine. I promise. And in that promise, my child, I know that all my pain, all my nights of hunger and shame, were not wasted. Because my story is now yours. And you will carry it forward, like a torch in the dark. The house grows quiet around us, but this time, it is not the silence of despair. It is the silence of peace. I close my eyes, listening to your breathing beside me, and I whisper one last truth into the night. Love and hope will always outlive lies.